Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Why you shouldn't be rude, our first story will tell. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Want me home right now? Sure. In my role as a team lead at an engineering company, I had 3 years of experience under my belt before a new manager stepped in. Unfortunately, this manager didn't seem to grasp the company's operations or bother to learn about our work environment. One day, a significant training session was scheduled with a client in a city located around 1,000 kilometers away. To make sure we were well prepared, my colleague and I took a flight the previous night, aiming to be at my client's office by the 8 a.m. start time. On the day of the training, we arrived promptly at 8 a.m., joining representatives from other firms in the conference room. However, as the minutes ticked by, it became evident that something was amiss. 8:30 a.m. came and went, followed by 9 a.m., then 9:30 a.m. Feeling increasingly puzzled, we decided to step out and ask reception about the delay. It wasn't until 11 a.m. that we learned the unfortunate truth. The trainer had fallen ill, and the training session had been canceled. With a mix of disappointment and determination, my colleague and I swung into action. I called up the airline to rearrange our flights, while my colleague contacted the hotel. The hotel graciously allowed us to stay an extra day without any additional charges, and the airline accommodated our flight changes without penalties. In a twist of fate, we managed to salvage the situation by arranging a dinner with local colleagues and even getting some client project managers to join us. Armed with our well-devised plan, I reached out to my former boss to fill him in. He agreed with our approach, but reminded me to loop in the new manager. And here's where the story takes a turn. When we informed the new manager of our strategy, he reacted in a rather explosive manner. It seemed like he was more interested in yelling than in listening to our explanations. Despite our attempts to clarify the situation, he insisted that we return immediately, showing no willingness to understand our point of view. It was at this juncture that we decided to comply, but with a twist. We went to the hotel, checking out by 4 p.m. They charged us for another night, which we accepted with a resigned nod. At the airport, the airline informed us about the additional fee for changing our flights, which we accepted with a knowing smile. To our surprise, the airline then announced a delay due to a technical issue with the plane. Passengers who agreed to wait would receive food credits. We saw an opportunity and took it. As time wore on, our flight was further delayed, and around 11:30 p.m., I couldn't resist the urge to send an email asserting that we'd be back in the office when we were ready. Frustration mingled with a sense of amusement as I hit the send button. We finally made it home around 1:30 a.m. the next day, a journey that cost the company extra money and disrupted our local meetings, which could have salvaged the situation. The following day brought a face-to-face encounter with the new manager. He summoned me to his office and began berating me for our actions. But I stood my ground, calmly explaining our decisions and the circumstances that led to them. Slowly, his demeanor shifted from aggression to understanding as he began to grasp the bigger picture. A few months later, I decided it was time to move on from the company. During my farewell, the manager approached me and awkwardly asked if our strained relationship played a role in my decision. Without hesitation, I looked him in the eye and confirmed that it was indeed a main factor. Although it made for an uncomfortable farewell lunch, it was a satisfying moment. And our second story. Entitled Karen blocking the parking lot. Some backstory. My boyfriend and I live quite far from each other, and we don't see each other often. He's in a wheelchair, and he has been for a few years after a pretty bad car crash. I have chronic pain and tend not to move on days where parts of my body aches too much. Might also be a good idea to name that we both have a pretty bad social anxiety and just we're very socially awkward people. You wouldn't want us at your parties, LOL. Anyways, me and my BF were heading to the store for some supplies for dinner, some snacks, and some cat food. You know, the usual stuff. My back was killing me, but it didn't feel fair to make him go on his own as he doesn't drive, and it would be a few miles for him to wheel himself along with the groceries, so I decided to go even though I was in a lot of pain. Once we got there, the lot was pretty full as it was right around the time people usually get off work. It was also during summer break, so there were a lot of young people out. For once, we were feeling lucky. We could park in a handicapped parking space. not deal with the endless searching for a parking spot? Well, we celebrated too early. Cue Karen. We just parked in one of the 2 empty spots, and I was walking to the back of the car to get my boyfriend's wheelchair from the trunk when a car rolled up to stand behind ours, blocking my way from opening the trunk. At first, I thought it was someone just stopping to pick up their phone or send a message. I checked through the window of the car, and I'm not joking when I say she looks like the textbook Karen, 40-something old, short blonde hair, extremely visible tan lines, and of course the classic frown. She raised her arm and just pointed me like an inch from my face. She was staring at me like I was an original Picasso painting or something. I probably looked very intimidated and confused because that was the emotions I was feeling at the time. Karen, you can't park here, disabled people only. Me, oh, my boyfriend's disabled, he's in the passenger seat. I'm trying to get his wheelchair from the trunk. Could you move your car, please? Karen, do you have proof? My daughter has autism and she needs this spot. Me, like I said, his wheelchair's in the trunk. You can see when I take it out if you can move your car. As I previously mentioned, it was 1 out of 2 spots right next to each other, so I was confused as to why she didn't just park in the one right next to us. I motioned my finger to the other spot and asked if she could park in there, but she just glared at me as if I had just insulted her mother. Karen, I know that one's not taken. I didn't ask, but you need to prove he's disabled. Karen was being pretty loud, so my boyfriend heard her from the front seat and decided to open the door to see what was going on. I kid you not, when Karen saw him, she gasped loudly and started yelling like if someone had cut her. It was by far the biggest reaction I've ever seen from a stranger before. Karen, he's not disabled. He looks normal. You're a filthy liar. Me, what do you mean? Does all people with a handicap look the same to you? I started to get really upset, but I tried to keep my cool, although my entire body was shaking with anger. I felt that if I didn't get out of there soon, I was going to have a panic attack. My boyfriend seemed to catch on to what was going on, and he called her to the front so he could speak with them. I had to step away for a bit to cool off, and I had a quick smoke. He later told me he showed her his amputated leg and told her the other one is just as bad. He explained that for several years he hadn't been able to feel anything from the waist down, and that he indeed needed that space. She soon got in her car and backed off a bit, and I went back to the car to proceed with the trunk when my boyfriend called for me. Boyfriend, she said that she just got her driver's license and that she's still not comfortable parking next to other cars. That's why she threw a fit. I told her we could move out for a sec to give her time to park. I didn't feel like I wanted to do anything for her after the way she yelled at me and were disrespectful, but I agreed to it since my boyfriend told me it'd be quick. Oh boy, did we do a mistake. I backed up and made sure she had enough space to park, but she kept making flicking movements with her hand, indicating that she wanted even more. So I did the dumb thing and pulled out completely of the space, and as soon as our car were out, she stepped on the gas and parked herself diagonally over both spaces, almost hitting a light pole in the process. She left the car to pick up her purse from the back, and then she had the audacity to wave mouth bye at us with a crap-eating grin. So she not only had harassed me and my boyfriend and taken both empty handicap parking spaces to herself, but she had also lied about having her daughter with her, who so badly needed that spot. I was fuming. I have a bit of a temper, whereas my boyfriend is a lot more chill. He told me we could just go home and come back in an hour or so, but I wasn't having it. I parked us in a regular parking space and left to go after her. I tried catching up with her, but the store was crowded and I didn't see her anywhere. The store I was at was connected to a mall, which has mall security, as most malls do. I approached one of the guards and told him about the lady harassing me and my disabled boyfriend in the parking lot, and also about how she was taking up more than one spot when there was only those 2 empty. He told me that he'd check her plates, which could possibly get her a ticket, but there wasn't a lot else he could do because she didn't get physical or cause a scene, really. He did say I could have called the cops, but there was probably nothing going to be done about it. Right then, I was so worn out that I just wanted to go home. If I did, I would likely have to stay even longer, and my back was already killing me. I went back to the car feeling very defeated. A few tears were shed. We decided to go to a different store for the cat food and some snacks and just order takeout. So it was an okay end to a very crappy day. First, no one is entitled to evidence or proof of disability. As long as you have the appropriate tags on your vehicle, you're good. Second, autism doesn't qualify for handicapped parking. Handicapped parking is available for the physically handicapped, not the mentally or emotionally handicapped. And our last story. HOA Karen is suing me for towing her off my land. I'm the owner of a small used car dealership with a large outdoor lot. There's space for about 8 cars inside my office, as well as a service building that can accommodate 2 cars inside, which can be lifted on a lift simultaneously. I grew up in a family of mechanics and have loved cars since childhood. My father died in a car crash when I was 16, and we had to sell his workshop to pay off our debts, and so I could finish my education. So after graduating, I had to first work for 10 years as a mechanic in a car service to gather money for my business and also take out loans. Fortunately, sales went well from the first months, and over 7 years, I was able to rent this lot, repair it, open it, and gradually grow my business. Unfortunately, my neighbor was a spa salon owned by Karen. She was a tall blonde who'd never worked a day in her life. Her father bought her this salon to make a living. Karen was about 40 years old, had a fancy little dog, a short haircut with bleached hair of a yellowish tint, and constantly knew young guys around her. One of my clients who came for suspension repair told me about that bee, one of the heads of my former housing association, and the reason why I sold my house and moved. Karen's salon had 3 parking spots, one usually taken by her boyfriend, one by her, and one left for a client. The next parking spot was 50 meters away or on my territory. And Karen started sending her clients to park at my place. My employees and I weren't always able to come out and tell them they couldn't park there, as they quickly went into the salon. So I put up a sign, "Do not park if you're not a client, private property." As a result, most clients started to leave for 50 meters away and apparently complained to Karen. So she couldn't think of anything better than to park her and her boyfriend's car on my land. Maybe I wouldn't have objected, and we could have arranged something if she'd asked from the beginning before sending her clients to me, or at least when she started doing it herself. But no, I came out when she parked once again, and she said, "Get lost. You have a bunch of land. Don't be a miser. And anyway, if you tow me, I'll sue you. This is public land." This is the land for which I pay a lot of rent every month, and as long as I do, I am its legal owner for the duration of the contract. So you made your choice. I decided towing her would be too easy, so I took a hydraulic lift and placed 2 pallets with cinder blocks in front of and behind Karen's car, almost touching, making it very hard to leave. When Karen came in the evening, she was furious and said she'd call 911 on me. I told her I'd warned you in the morning not to park here. You sent me away without listening. I needed this place to store my cinder blocks for a couple of days. So Karen left, and a few minutes later, the police arrived. I told them I'd warned her this is my private land and parking was not allowed here because I needed the space for unloading. Around our parts, the police don't like dealing with such matters. They said it was a civil matter and that we should sort it out ourselves. So the next day, Karen had to hire a loader to move one of the pallets of cinder blocks. She filed a civil lawsuit against me, but didn't take a single photo or anything like that. And I had video recordings from cameras where I tell her not to park here and receive the middle finger in response. So Karen had to pay for a lawyer. After that, my parking was forever cleared of the blonde evil. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.